One thing every successful individual, leader, and entrepreneur have in common is a consistent morning routine. Having a simple, easy to implement routine enables you to start your day with a sense of purpose, accomplishment, clarity, and direction. For this reason, I have prepared for you a free guide with an easy to follow 5 minutes morning routine and a tracking template where you can document your progress day by day. I've been receiving messages from some of you already telling me how this habit has transformed your days for the better. Download this 5 minutes morning routine right now by clicking the link on my show notes so you can start your day on purpose. Welcome to the With Clarity and Purpose podcast with your host, Yanet Borrego. Each week, I bring you an inspiring person or message to empower you to live life on your terms so you can be who you want to be, do what you are meant to do, and have the life you deserve to have. We will provide you with practical and cutting-edge approaches to continue getting clarity and direction on your path, mastering your mindset, and gaining confidence to tap into your inner wisdom so you can live on purpose. How is it possible that what triggers you may not trigger other people? It is because there is always a lesson to be learned. If not, you wouldn't have noticed that situation or that person. If not, that person wouldn't be annoying or frustrating to you. And let me illustrate this with an example. My mom lives with Cody and I, with my husband and I, and she helps us tremendously with everything related to the house, like the laundry, the dishes, everything. So she does work a lot. There was a time in my life, not long ago, last year actually, where I kept telling my mom, you have to find your purpose. What is your purpose? You need to align whatever you do in your life with that. And I kept telling that to my mom and just being frustrated over it. And I was just feeling that she wasn't getting it. There was a moment where I kept asking myself, what is the lesson? Why is this triggering me so much? Why is this frustrating me so much? And I quickly realized that whatever I was telling her to do, I needed to apply myself. Whatever I was telling her to do was a projection from my inside, because I knew that my purpose was coaching. I knew that I was working on aligning my career to it. And I had, of course, created my side coaching business a few years back. And I just felt that I was at the point where I needed to take a decision to further align with my purpose. Many times what triggers us, I would say 99% of the time, of anything that triggers us, it can be situations, it can be behaviors, it can be people. All of those things are lessons we need to get. And all of those triggers are actually projections of things that we need to work inside of us that we are projecting outside of us. Whenever you point the finger to someone else and you say, it's that person, not me, there is always a lesson to be learned there. And when you notice yourself doing that, you gotta take an honest look inside and say, what is the thing that it's triggering me within myself about this person or situation that I actually need to work on? Let me give you another example, because we learn with stories. I was working in consulting in my last corporate job before I transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship. And I had probably the most challenging manager that I had in my career. And not challenging that he was demanding, but challenging that, in my opinion, he didn't know how to manage well. And in my opinion, he didn't have the knowledge, even in consulting, to manage our team. And at that moment, I was the one working the closest to this manager. I had been probably like 8 months in consulting, and there was this manager before him that I really got along with her. I mean, she was amazing. And then she left the company, and this other manager joined. And him and I, we didn't see eye to eye, to be honest with you. Him and I, we didn't have the same values professionally or in any other area. And it was something that was frustrating me because, in a way, I just felt I didn't respect this person professionally, to be honest with you. And I was just struggling with myself. I was like, why do I need to report to this person? Like, he's asking me to do this, but I don't agree with that. I just kept going over and over. And I was just getting so frustrated and suffering. And of course, I escalated it. And I was told, hey, be patient. We are working through some things. And I'm like, why do I need to work with this? Why am I the person that is working the closest to him? Like, why not someone else? So I started asking all these questions. And I quickly realized that the way I was seeing myself was from a victimhood perspective. I was the victim of the circumstance. And I knew better, my friend. Empowerment is all about recognizing what is going on and taking control of what you can control and letting go of the expectations of the rest of the things you cannot actually control. And I remember walking from the client's office where we were working to my car. And I kept asking to myself, there is a pattern that I'm running. What is the lesson that I need to learn? What is the lesson that I need to learn from this guy that, for whatever reason, is triggering me? I mean, easily, I could have been like, okay, he's like that, and just have gone with the flow. But honestly, I was being very rigid on the way I was dealing with this manager. And I kept asking, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? What is the lesson? And one of the things that I learned in my neurolinguistic programming training, and it's something that I apply every single day in my life, is that the person with the most behavioral flexibility controls the system. The person with the most behavioral flexibility is the one who has the biggest influence. And at that moment, I realized that that was my lesson. I was resisting him. I was resisting this manager. And when you resist something, the other person is going to resist you back. When you push someone, guess what? That person is going to push you back because people don't respond to resistance. And I quickly realized that I needed to have more flexibility in my communication and my behavior. And instead of resisting, I needed to accept that he was my manager and I was reporting to him. And the next day I walked into the office. I walked with this presence of acceptance and humbleness, to be honest with you, because there was a moment, or most of the moment, that our egos were clashing. In my mind, I'm like, you're not worth of my respect, right? And in his mind, he's like, hey, you report to me, so you need to do what I say. And for me, that was so hard. But I got to the understanding, to be honest, that I was the one that needed to be the most flexible in this communication because we were struggling with communication and with everything else. The next day, I walked into the office, and as I mentioned, I was a lot more humble. And I asked him, hey, I realized, and I had a conversation with him because I try to be very direct with these things. And if there is a moment of having a conversation that it maybe is confrontational, I think it's important to have it. So I went to him and I was like, hey, I realized, and I've been reflecting, that for the last few weeks, I've been resisting you as a manager, and I wanted to apologize for that. And moving forward, I want you to know that I recognize that I am reporting to you. And of course, I am committed to the client and to this project. So I want to make sure that we work through things, and we do this because we want to make sure that the client is successful. And after that, I mean, and believe me, that conversation was hard for me because my ego was kind of hurt. But after I got the lesson, I stopped repeating the pattern because I got a greater understanding of how I needed to grow myself, of what I needed to learn. You know, you have learned what you need to learn from that situation when the pattern stops repeating. If you keep attracting the same situation or the same job or the same romantic partner with a different face, it means that you haven't gotten the lesson yet. Because whenever you get the lesson, that's where you break the pattern for the first time. And a pattern breaks and you continue moving on with your life, and a new pattern may start repeating because you need to get another lesson. And this is a lifelong lesson. This is a lifelong process. This is a lifelong journey. And that's what we need to understand. So funny enough, I showed up super humble. I had that conversation and was very honest about it. I apologized. And right after that, and I'm not kidding, like 3 days after, he was released from my project and he was moved to a total different project. And I got a new manager that I respected and that I got along really well. It is so interesting how the universe puts in front of you the things that you need to learn. The universe puts in front of you the situations and the people that are gonna show you how you can evolve and grow. And sometimes these people or this situation may be uncomfortable and may be painful. But whenever you release that pain and you break that pattern is when you get the lesson. So I want you to start practicing something. Okay, I'm gonna give you an actionable item. Whenever you're in a situation that you find challenging, whenever you're in a situation that you feel frustrated and irritated and it keeps repeating over and over, I want you to first recognize that most of the time we are projecting our beliefs, our insecurities, our fears into other people. So part of taking responsibility for your growth is to realize and start asking yourself, what am I projecting? And what is the thing that I can work on in order to have more harmony with this situation? I can prove you that it's a projection because not everyone is triggered by the same thing. 20 people can be in the same meeting and someone says something in the meeting. One person gets triggered and the rest of the 19 people out of 20, they don't get triggered. Why? Because that person is projecting something within herself and within himself into that situation. So part of taking responsibility for change is starting to ask yourself, what am I projecting that I'm perceiving out of this situation? And the second question to ask, what is the lesson to be learned? And remembering that whenever you get the lesson, the pattern stops repeating and you grow and evolve into a new height, right? It's so important to recognize that one, perception is projection. What you perceive is a projection of what you're going through internally. And the second, there is no wrong way. There is no wrong decision because there is always a lesson to be learned out of any challenging situation. If there was not a lesson, you wouldn't be facing that trigger. You wouldn't be facing that situation. You wouldn't be facing that partner. And many times, the people closest to us are the ones that triggers us the most because we spend the most time with them, right? And we love them. And because they are so close to us, it's a lot easier to project what we are struggling with within, okay? Our romantic partners, our moms, our dads, whatever that is for you, I want you to recognize that, to also remind yourself that perception is projection. And the third thing, there is always a lesson to be learned, my friend. What is the lesson for you? That's the question to be asked. I hope this episode was super helpful. And if it was helpful to you, please share with your friends and family. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening at With Clarity and Purpose. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Sharing is caring. Please share with your friends and family so we can continue building an empowered community together. I'll see you next week.